All right, so welcome to a new episode of Film Freaks. I'm your old pal, the Moo
Movies
Cow.
that we love.
Movies that we love. And I'm your old pal, the Moo Cow, right? And I'm joined by.
Jonathan A. Moody.
How's it going?
Doing great.
All right, so today we are watching a movie from 1981 that I've always loved. It's an alternate kind of werewolf movie, and it's called Wolfen. And it stars, this is a great cast, Albert Finney, and Gregory Hines is in it, and just all kinds of people. And it's directed by Michael Wadley, which he's the guy who directed Woodstock. So you remember you mentioned Woodstock earlier, and I was like, oh, funny you should mention Woodstock because that's what Michael Wadley directed. He directed Woodstock and he directed this, and that's pretty much it.
So two W movies.
Yeah. There you go. So yeah, Albert Finney, Diane Verona, Edward James Olmos,
Edward James Olmos.
young Edward James Olmos, and Gregory Hines. And yeah, it's great film, and unusual. It's based on a Whitley Strieber novel, and yeah, so we will check out that movie. You've never seen it, right?
Never seen
And
it.
we'll come back and chat about it.
Bye.
Bye. Okay, so we are back. So, what did you think of Wolfen?
I loved it. I don't think I don't think we've ever picked a film freaks that I was like, damn, that sucked. Well, I lied. There's happiness.
Love that movie too.
I do not love that movie. That movie can go suck a nut. But other than that, you know, that's a movie I'll never watch again in my life. But this movie I'd actually buy and I'd want to have.
Yeah, this is a great film. It came out at a great time for horror movies. And like I said, you know, you had American Werewolf in London and you had The Howling. And this one didn't quite get quite the same accolades because I think it was a little deeper, a little too different. I think people wanted it to be more of like a traditional werewolf movie.
What was the deal with like quote unquote werewolves back then?
It became a big thing. It was a regeneration, and mostly because of the new effects.
Like the fact that they were able to do the effects of like transforming.
Rick Baker and Tom Savini and those folks were able to do all kinds of great stuff.
Yeah.
With that. This movie doesn't really do that because there is no werewolf transformation. This is about a separate race, a sort of super race of wolves that lived and evolved alongside regular wolves and regular humans that are superior predators and who have learned to adapt to society, human society, by living in the shadows and living in the slum areas and picking off and scavenging people that won't be missed and eating them, but not eating like the diseased parts. So they're smart enough to even detect that, you know, and they are able to do it in a way that they're focusing on people who won't get missed. Except in this case, because they're so smart, they're getting rid of this guy named Vanderveer who is going to threaten their existence by developing this area. And this is at a time where there are just this giant sections of New York City that were just derelict and burned down, and that's where they were living. So
they were living in it because nobody else was, right?
Yeah, it was a very sketchy, dangerous part of town. That's where they were living, and so they had to protect it, so they went to kill them. They did kill them, but then there was an investigation, and then that brought more light to them, so they started to hunt down everybody who was involved in that.
And it was trying to, trying to find out who they are.
They would have killed, Albert Finney's character and Diana Verona too, but I think at the last part when he destroys the tower, That's what First, he shows that he's not a threat, and then he shows not only is he not a threat, but the thing that drove them this in the first place was the development, and he's like, yeah, we're destroying that. It's going away. We're not doing that.
We're not doing that.
And so then the best of all is then they fucking disappear right in front of them.
Yeah, you kind of just
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and then the cops come in, but and start shooting, and I was like, oh my god, don't shoot! But the wolves were already gone. Like I just was afraid they were gonna shoot the girl. So I guess we can go into a bit of the story, or unless you want to go into the background first.
A little bit of the background. This was directed by one of the guys who wrote part of the screenplay was Michael Wadley, who's mostly famous for directing Woodstock, the movie Woodstock. He did that film, and he did this film. Those are his two big features. He ended up doing a few other smaller things that he had involved with other Woodstock footage, but for the most part, those are the two movies he made, and he did not really enjoy working in the studio system and just working for any other sort of producers. He really wanted to do things his way, and in even this film, he didn't get exactly the things that he wanted to have happen. So he ended
Warner
up doing
Brothers
other stuff.
Like attached to this, or
it was Orion Pictures at that time.
Orion, that's right.
So yeah, he just, I don't think he had a very good experience with any studio. So I think that's kind of what happened, and
that's why he left.
He decided to do other
things. What does he do now? Like what?
I forget. I know he does.
He's got a regular job.
He's still in the business, but in different ways. I don't know if he does editing or music or he does other stuff.
Okay.
But he doesn't, unfortunately, make films anymore, which is a shame because clearly
he
knows what he's doing. Oh fuck yeah! What a beautifully shot, amazing film.
He did the Predator stuff before the Predator.
Yeah, that's a steady camera and with a Loma crane to get really, really low, and so you get the Predator's point of view with that, colorful reverse negative thing that, to sort of simulate their vision, their heat vision.
Yeah, their heat vision.
Fucking cool. And plus, it's got the whole... God, what's the movie where they, you're going through the woods and you're seeing it from their point of view?
Oh, like Evil Dead?
Like Evil Dead, yeah. It's got that whole parts when they're going along.
That is weird. They both came out, like I think Evil Dead came out a year before this. I think 1980.
So, yeah, the colors on the Blu-ray look gorgeous. Everything really, really looked good. The performances, man, I'm telling you what, man. So we got Albert Finney, okay, 5-time Oscar-nominated actor there. He was in movies like Gumshoe, Scrooge, Murder on the Orient Express, The Duelists, The Dresser, Miller's Crossing, Tom Jones, Looker, which is another movie we're going to do on Film Freaks. It's not quite as good as this, but it's still pretty cool. Annie, The Gathering Storm.
Wait, Annie, like the little orphan Annie?
Yeah, he did the movie.
So what did he do in that?
I forget. He wasn't Daddy Warbucks. He was one of the other main characters in that.
Oh, okay.
And then his partner, the police psychiatrist, is played by Diana Verona, whom I love. I've always loved her.
What else has she been in?
She's been in The Cotton Club. She was also in FX. She was in Clint Eastwood's movie Bird on Charlie Parker. She was in Heat, The Substitute, Romeo and Juliet, Hamlet.
Wait, The Substitute, the one with Tom Berenger?
Yep. TV, she was in Law and Order and Criminal Minds. She was in all kinds of stuff. And then
I might have seen her on one of the Law and Orders or something.
Edward James Olmos. He plays
Edward
Eddie
James
Holt.
Olmos.
Young, so young. This is like one of his earliest roles. And, he's in Virus, Blade Runner, Stand and Deliver, American Me, I'm Still Here, Blade Runner 2049.
Oh, he's in the new one?
Mm-hmm.
I own it. I just haven't watched it.
And on TV, he was, of course, Battlestar Galactica, the remake. He was fabulous in that. Hill Street Blues, Miami Vice, American Family, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Narcos, Dexter, The Mayans, MC.
I mean, he's his career's huge.
He's very well known.
It's really funny. Whenever I think of his name, I think of an Entourage. Jessica Alba put her hands on Vince's eyes, right? And she goes, guess who, right? And he knew it was her, right? And he goes, Edward James Olmos. and so every time I hear his name, I just think of Vince saying that. And she even said you got his name wrong. And I'm like, You know, he said it exactly like I say it, so is there another way of saying it? I don't know.
Well, some people say James Edward almost. I've done that on occasion. I get it backwards.
I know. I think it was the almost was wrong or something. I don't know. Maybe it is pronounced differently in real life, but.
And then Gregory Hines is in it, and Gregory Hines is wonderful. And of course, History of the World Part 1, Muppets Take Manhattan, also in Cotton Club.
He's usually a comedy guy.
White Knights. Well, he's a dancer. That was his big thing.
Really?
He was an excellent dancer, award-winning dancer. Rage in Harlem, Renaissance Man. He's in all kinds of stuff. Unfortunately,
the Danny DeVito Renaissance Man movie?
Yeah. He unfortunately passed away in 2003.
Yeah.
But
and you said, did Albert Finney pass away?
Mm-hmm.
And when was that?
2019.
2019. So both of them passed.
And then Ferguson was played by Tom Noonan, who's in all kinds of movies too. Heaven's Gate, Easy Money, FX, Manhunter,
Last Action Hero, baby.
Last Action Hero, Heat, The Pledge, Eight-Legged Freaks, Astronaut's Wife, House of the Devil, and the 12 Monkeys TV show that was on.
Oh yeah, that's was it Tiffany Shepis' husband worked on that show and stuff. It's pretty cool. Sean Tretta. Awesome.
Yeah, and it's all based on a Whitley Strieber novel. He was really big in the 80s and into the 90s. A couple of his movies or books that became movies, The Hunger, which were
I think you guys did that for Film Freaks when I wasn't here.
Yeah, it was a fabulous movie. One of my favorite vampire movies of all time. Communion, that's one of his other popular ones. He did a lot of alien abduction kind of things, so X-Files stuff. And does a lot of interesting variations. He likes to do weird variations of things. And this is kind of a variation.
Which one?
Sets you up.
Who did that?
The writer, Whitley Strieber.
Okay.
It kind of sets you up a little bit to think that it's werewolves and shapeshifters, and even the Native American characters in this one kind of play along with it.
They mention it and stuff because
but they know what's going on.
Investigating everything. Yeah. And it starts to get really bad at one point. So they do explain the actual truth of what's going on and everything and whatnot at the end. But
But they also do it in a way where they're fucking with them too. You know what I mean?
Well, they do it beforehand where they're fucking with them. But I think at the end they really do just tell them like straight up like this is what's going on. Edward James Olmos though the whole time you don't know if he's being real or whatnot.
Because at one point he's thinking that the guy is he really a shapeshifter? Is that really happening? And then he follows them and he kind of watches him go through that ritual thing.
He sees him, but he sees Edward James almost sees Albert Finney watching him, and so he knows to fuck with him.
Yeah, he really does. And then even and we are like, because we don't know. We're like,
right.
Maybe
when you first watch it, you don't know if he's really turning or not, because it is the full moon.
Right.
We see the full moon. We see his, his way he's reacting. You see him going like this and everything, and then he just comes up to him and just talks to him,
Him and his dangle.
Yeah, Jesus, he got naked in that movie.
Totally naked.
So if you want to see Edward James's Olmos, there you go.
There you go. And I gotta talk a little bit about the cinematography. What amazing shots are in this film. Some beautiful shots, some freaking scary ass shots.
I love the mirror images and stuff.
Right.
That was pretty cool.
I love the ones at the top of the bridge, even though they freak me out and make me nauseous. Just amazing.
He's afraid of heights. I'm not afraid of heights, but I don't want to be up there.
They really had to go up there and shoot that for real.
I know. Yeah. That would be terrifying, especially with like big name people. Both of those guys are. Albert Finney at that time was huge, but Edward James almost wasn't, but he became huge. And so for both of those big-time actors to be up there is scary.
Yeah, and what I've read, Albert Finney was not happy about being up there, and that wasn't much acting. That was him being super sketched out.
But he wanted to do it because it'll be a great shot and it'll look fantastic on film.
And part of the shit that Michael Wadley got was the fact that at this period of time, there were those horrible, awful blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks of derelict areas that were fucking dangerous to be in, much less spend time at night shooting extended shots. They had to hire extra security.
So there said there was gangs and
junkies and rats and wild dogs and just dangerous places. And they were straight up warned, don't do this. Don't go to these places. But they had scouted it, and the people who had scouted it had found all these great places, and they found this amazing old church that was just derelict and falling apart. But it was gorgeous at the same time. And they're like, yeah, we're gonna build this movie around this building, and that's what they chose. And some of the places that they shot in were just super sketchy. These are not sets; these were real abandoned places.
Yeah,
and some of them were just unsafe.
And you saw like the demolition of one of them
right.
or whatever, and I was wondering if that was a real demolition and they just got
I'm
it
sure
on
some of it was, yeah,
on video or whatever. They just were lucky enough to, hey, you mind if we shoot that?
Yeah, same thing like around when the movie Koyaanisqatsi came out. Part of that is, that urban renewal. It started in the early 80s into the mid 80s and then really got it up into the 90s, and then New York City changed from them because at the time, the old New York City in the 50s, 60s, and 70s when it was broke and they couldn't afford, to have enough police or enough firemen, and it was just, there were just whole sections that were abandoned, just this massive urban decay. There's a whole group of movies that I've always found fascinating. Prince of the City was in that, and just all kinds of great movies were set at that period. And I physically got to see the end of that in high school. I got up there in the early 80s when some of that was still there, and it's just a very, very different time and place than it is now.
Yeah.
So
seems like like you said, all that stuff's all cleaned up and looks different, So, I mean, I'm not. We've talked about this earlier. Like, I'm an LA kind of guy. Paul's a New York kind of guy. He'd rather go to, if he had a choice between those two, he'd go live in New York. Me personally, I don't like cold. I don't like all this other shit that happens and that stuff. I just, to me, California would be more my style.
New York City's got the history. It's got the architecture. It's got the food. It's all the different cultures. I dig it. It's got a great vibe. Old bookstores, all that kind of stuff. And it was nothing for me to jump on the train in Wilmington and take the train all the way up and with my friends, and we'd spend all day running around New York City, getting into trouble and messing around and exploring, and then we'd just take the last train all the way back, and in a couple hours we'd be back home. It was just a fun thing to do.
Yeah, I can imagine. So it's I don't know, just not my kind of thing, but I get it. Like I wouldn't mind staying there, or whatever for like a month or whatever, or shoot there, but I wouldn't. It's just not my thing of living. Like I don't.
It's a tough place. It's even now, even when it's sanitized and cleaned up, it's still not an easy place to run around.
I'll take Tina Kraus out of there, and we'll go live in.
Oh, see, we got to go visit Tina.
Yeah, we
awesome.
got to go visit Tina. Oh, poor girl. But she's happy.
I wonder what. I'm sure she's seen this film. I'm very curious to know what she has to say about it.
Sometimes you think that, but sometimes people haven't. Maybe. But this is a New York film.
Oh yeah.
And stuff.
The cinematography is magnificent. The music is really, really good. There's some great tension built up just by the music alone. The performances are all fabulous. I loved the characters. I loved even the small side characters. Even the guys in the morgue who were like making fun and like talking to some of the corpses, and it's like they're so crusty because they've seen so much over their time.
And they eat like was it Tom Noonan's character's like, or what was his Fergie? He was just like, hey, I haven't eaten anything. You want a pizza? And I'm like, what the fuck?
Like right there in front of dead bodies.
Yeah. And there's lots of dead bodies with Dangle. They just show all the bodies
and
off.
like there's one part where they're like starting to cut up this one person, and there's blood and shit everywhere,
And
Dude, he's
freaking
just,
Albert Finney is just eating
cookies and
eating food. And I'm like, how can you eat food when like there's blood and all this other shit out?
There's a
Like,
lot of black humor in there. And then Gregory Hines' character is having a lot of fun with it. He's talking about, oh, I know where these people are going.
Yeah, and people talk about like cannibals.
And then they stake out in the middle of the night an area where there's fucking dangerous shit going on, and he's out sticking his ass out and saying, it's the black moon over Manhattan.
I know. He was definitely the more comedic, tension breaker, you know. But I'm sad he died because I liked him, and I liked him, and I liked Ferguson. I was like, Ferguson's a moron. Like he knew that the thing was out there, you know, right?
He knew something was out there.
Yeah, but instead of just calling the cops and just trying to like hide or whatever away, you know, he freaking goes out to the thing, stalks the thing, and says, you know, I know you're out here, you know, or whatever.
Which is the last thing you want to do.
Yeah, and so. And the interesting thing is, like, most of the time we're kind of led up to believe it's a shapeshifter or / werewolf. Even to the end, I was still a little confused as to whether or not...
And I think a lot of general audiences were confused, too.
Yeah, and I think that might be a reason why they didn't like the movie or whatever. It didn't really do as well because it was a little confusing. But I think, I mean, when they explain it with the Native Americans in the bar... explains sort of this is a Wolfen, this is a different kind of wolf that's out there that's been living underground or in, you know, these places for so long that they've kind of evolved into their own kind of species, you know, and they are very smart and they're very protective, and the whole time Albert Finney is kind of like saying, you know, is it family, you know, and it's like, maybe, you know, family is one thing and all these other things, but they are, right now, you are, you know, crouching on their personal area, you know, and they don't like it, you know, and so he knows that. That's how he realizes after a while, if they just, because there's this great scene where Albert Finney, the girl, and the boss all go outside of the office of the guy who... Because
the boss thinks that it's a political thing, and they've grabbed this
terrorists.
Gang. Right.
Because the terrorists that they caught, it made sense because they were, like, they used wolf stuff. So, like, they thought, okay, they'll just one of their hairs from their thing got onto the, you know, case solved, you know, we can move on. And I think you've talked to me about that. Like, most cops just want to close a case and move on.
And we know that can't be it because Gregory Hines' character is like, we've been finding hairs all over the country, even down in New Orleans, so it can't be.
Right.
You know.
And even Albert Finney knows that.
Right.
And so he doesn't say anything to him about that because I think he's still trying to just figure it out on his own.
How are you going to explain that, you know?
Yeah. So they go down and they see all the wolves, you know, around or whatever, like all of them snarling at them. And these are real wolves.
These are huge, and they're gorgeous.
You know? And some are white, some are black, some are, I guess, brownish, you know, color. They're different colors wolves, but they are all, and some of them have the most beautiful eyes and have the greatest expressions on their face.
Teeth like that. They are like, huge.
Some of them you can tell they almost have like their own like little personality and everything, and I love that about it. And they're all snarling at them, but they're not doing anything. Now, if they were really dangerous things, they would just lunge and attack, you know, but they are kind of waiting.
Right,
you know,
he's telling them, don't move, don't do anything.
Don't do anything. Of course, the boss freaks out and tries to run and gets his arm, like, off, you know, or whatever. His hand or arm.
Right, his hand.
His hand.
And then thinks he's safe in the car, but...
He's safe in the car, but lo and behold, there's one in the car. So there's a wolf in the back seat.
Gets his head bit off.
Well, after he jumps out he jumps out of the car, and of course the first thing that happens is a wolf jumps at him. So he was fucked when he ran, you know. And then the car catches on fire or whatever, which alerts the fire department. And all the while, because the car was on fire, all the wolves split and disappeared.
It gives them enough time to go back upstairs
to try to
Van
hide.
Devere office.
But like they weren't attacking. They weren't. They if he had just done the thing he did. Well, no, because they needed the part where he said, "No, we're not doing anything."
Yeah, he unloads the gun in front of the wolf and puts it down to sort of say, I'm not a threat.
Yeah,
not a threat. And then, he understands that it's the housing development project that is the real threat to the wolves.
But how do the wolves know that the housing development thing was that thing he smashed?
Well, there were several times where you're looking through their eyes, and they're seeing shit getting knocked down.
Right.
So, yeah, they were able to put two and two together.
Yes, but I guess they're smart wolves, is what they were said. But I'm like, that's a little too smart, in my opinion. But
I was willing to overlook it.
Yeah, suspension of disbelief for that, because it already, this movie is sort of like they're trying so hard to like confuse you a little bit, that I'm just okay. Sure, I'll go with it. Just because they needed an ending. Thankfully, the two cops, the cop and the partner, who I just absolutely, at one point I was like, where is she?
I know.
I was missing her.
Diane Verone is wonderful.
Because she was not, for a while, he was doing everything by himself.
She has these big, huge eyes. Just, what a doll baby.
And, he got to have sex with her.
And smart. She holds her own against Dewey.
And he got to have sex with her.
Yeah, that's always a plus.
That's a nice thing for Albert Finney. I'm sure he was happy when he read that in the script.
Yeah, well, his character does. He doesn't.
Well, he's on top of her, so he does a little bit. He doesn't actually probably have sex with her.
But yeah, they do form a relationship, which is nice, and you could tell that they kind of like each other.
And then and a lot
it's
of
got a happy ending.
There are some great scenes. Like one of my favorite scenes, and I think your favorite scene, I think, was the scene in the coffee shop, right, or whatever. Not coffee shop, the bar where the Native Americans.
Oh yeah, that was a great.
Yeah, that was a great scene. But I love the church scene where the first church scene where they go to investigate the church.
Oh yeah, and they're making noises like she thinks she's hearing babies, so they're mimicking human voices to lure them in so they can kill them.
Yeah. And that's scary.
And
it's even scarier because they're not human.
Right. But, the good thing about Dewey is that he is instinctual. So he recognizes, he may not be able to explain it logically, but his instinct kicks in and says, this is bad. And he gets them out of there.
Yep. He gets them out of there. They run. But that wasn't a good thing going in there because they
tracked him.
Yeah, they tracked him down. There's a couple great scenes with the wolf, with a wolf or wolves, I don't know what, but we only saw one really, going all around like New York, traveling around. There's one point it kind of hides behind a car, and then it goes and sees this guy, and he just throws him across.
Knocks him across. Yeah.
Yep.
Wrong place, wrong time, buddy.
I know. I kind of felt bad. I'm like, damn, but yeah, it was crazy. And I like the idea, like the sort of the folklore that all the wolves are in, like everywhere. It said there's wolves over here. There's ones in Philadelphia.
Sure, you could turn this into a series, really.
Yeah, yeah, you could, but it would, you'd still want to probably center it around one, area, one central area. But yeah, it could have been a cool series. I don't know who would do it now, because if Orion owned it and Warner Brothers, maybe HBO Max could put out a series for it. It would be fun. But that's the beautiful thing. Like, we watch these movies and we're like, we want it to be longer. We want a sequel or whatever.
Just really well done, well shot, well acted. Everything was really, really good in this. And I can't think of anything bad. And it's one of my favorite movies. And I remember seeing it in the theater and being blown away. And this is at the same time that I love the other two traditional werewolf movies. And here comes a third one, and I'm thinking, I'm going to get another one. And then it does this end around and gives you a completely different flavor. And I was just like, wow, this is even better.
Well, it's interesting. Like at the end, you see all of the Native American guys on the bridges or whatever thing, and so that's why I thought maybe it was all them still. They were still, like leaving it where could they still be the werewolves themselves? But I guess not.
No, but they're the connectors between the two societies. They understand it, and they also lived it, and you presume that they've passed down the information from generation to generation because Native Americans lived alongside them. And the Fergie talks about how they evolved and were faced extermination around the same time in America.
Fergie was fun because at the beginning he's telling them like I guess they thought it could be a bear, it could be some kind of human thing, they didn't know what, right? And he realizes it's canine, and then he goes, hold on, I'll be right back. Lupus. And he grabs...
Want to meet him?
He's like, want to meet him? And he pulls out like... And
he's got this giant smile on his face. He's totally into his element.
Yeah, he's great. He's
and him and Gregory Hines clearly have a relationship because they're like they joke with each other and everything. And
they had a blast. You could tell they really enjoyed.
And when Fergie goes missing, he says, "Oh, his mom called me looking for him. She's freaking out."
I know. I feel bad.
I know. But I love the fact that they have all established relationships and they're friendly with each other. It's neat.
Yep. It was fun. It was a really good movie. Like it's funny because earlier you showed like I think in season 3 you showed like Angel Heart and stuff, and that's really dark, and I think that's Louisiana or whatever, but like that was a really dark, fucked up movie, and I thought that was what this was gonna be, and it was a little bit like this was a dark and fucked up movie, but not in that sense. Like this one
has
also
a little more fantasy in it.
Well, this one also had. I thought it had like it was gonna go with voodoo or something because they were talking about voodoo. In the beginning.
And so they kind of set you up. They give you some red herrings there that you think might be involved because the one bodyguard was former Tonton McCoot, so he had that ring with the pentangle and the goat in the middle, and there's some symbology like in Battery Park. There's a few metal things that are there, and sometimes they look like demons or devils, and they're like, oh, did you know the witchcraft angle? And
there's things that it could have been, and oh, dude, I one of my favorite things too was the lie detector stuff, which made. So now that like I finished watching the movie and I know the ending and all that stuff, it made more sense for the scenes where that girl was talking about everything and she was acting like she knew what she was talking about, but it turned out that guy said, no, she's lying.
She's lying.
And then I was like, is she though? Is she? Like, because, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, no, she was lying. Because she didn't know anything about these wolves. She didn't know whatsoever. She just... Maybe she thought she knew something, or actually, I guess she didn't because he couldn't tell she was lying, and so she knew nothing, but she was acting like she did.
Yeah, she was pretending to be more than what she was, which is why the guy was like, "Yeah, you're all tough until your trust fund runs out."
There's some good lines in this movie. There's some good everything in this movie.
Yeah, that was funny. It's like, when she asked for a drink and Dewey's like. She's like, do you have any ice? He's like, only in my heart.
Only in my heart. That was a great line. Oh, man.
Yeah, great performance by Albert Finney. One of my absolute favorites.
Yeah, you said...
Loved his character.
You said it was one of your favorite actors. So
absolutely.
That's just fantastic. I would have loved to have seen more... I need to see more stuff of his. I don't think I've watched nearly enough and stuff. Like, I was telling you, I thought he looked a little like Willem Dafoe at first, but the more I saw him up close, it's like, no, that's a completely different person. But Willem Dafoe could have done just as a pretty good job too.
Mm-hmm. He's always in good stuff, and like I said, everything about this is just a great film. I would love to see this, released in such a way where there's extra stuff, because it's nice to have this Blu-ray archives collection.
And it looked
with Warner
beautiful,
Brothers.
so like the Blu-ray did a great job.
But it comes pretty bare bones,
Yeah, but no extras.
There's like a trailer. And
I would have loved to see at least a featurette where they explain some stuff or something, but No, it just comes with a trailer or something like that, and I'm just like, eh. But I'll still buy it on because I'm doing a Warner Archives thing where I'm buying all the Warner. Well, I mean, I'm not all of them, I'm sure, but you know, I'm buying 2 Warner Archives thing, and like each month buying like 1. You know, so I'll have like 12 of them by the end of the year.
Yep, and I just did 2 of them.
Yeah, that's true. You did 2 Warner Archives. Well, one was a Blu-ray, and one was a DVD. But so if you watched earlier this month, we did
Erg, A Music War.
Erg, the Music War.
Which
Music War,
I would have gotten in Blu-ray if they had it. It was just DVD.
They haven't released on Blu-ray yet. Release it, Warner Brothers Archive. You know I know you're watching. 'Cause we're talking about one of your films. So release it. Release the Kraken.
Need to see Klaus Nomi in all his glory.
Yeah. But or John Otley.
John Otway. Oh yeah.
Otway, yeah, Otway. Oh Lord. Yeah. So I love this on Blu-ray. It just looks beautiful. But
yeah, it was.
I would have preferred like if somebody like Scream Factory or somebody could do like a special edition. I don't know if they can or Warner Brothers Archives.
Oh, this could be on Criterion. This would be great.
This could be on Criterion.
Imagine a 4K of this.
Or Kino or somebody. 4K. Oh man, a 4K would look beautiful, especially with like the cool little effects and different stuff. And the visual effects, like this blood and all the violence and everything was so good.
Yep.
I from the very start, from the first was it the what is the guy's name, the guy in the beginning that gets killed with his wife?
Oh, Vanderlei.
When Vanderlei gets killed and his wife gets killed, it just was so well done. and oh
so
man,
fast.
I will tell you, I was so scared that dog was gonna die and that cat was gonna die. Like, you know, but
then it made sense that, you know, they're not threats to them, so they don't.
Yeah, they're not
gonna
threatening
bother
them. They're not threatening their home.
I don't know if I mentioned, but it was James Horner who does the music.
Yep, James Horner.
Great.
He's done a lot of music. He's a fantastic composer. Just all around, I think, you know. Can I see that back of that disc? Let me see if it says who the it doesn't say who the editor is today. Jerry Fisher did the director of photography.
Great job.
Yeah, and so David Ayer was the one you were talking about, right? That did this story, right, or whatever. Wow, so fantastic! Oh man, and it says Warner Brothers Presents, so that's cool. Even though we saw what Orion are releasing, so very cool. This movie was a lot of fun. If you haven't seen Wolfen, you know,
check it out, man.
You should definitely check it out. It's something that I think anybody who's into wolves, period, and not just like werewolves, but wolves,
right,
would love.
Or just, you know, something different as far as horror or fantasy, dark fantasy.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not scared by it, but like, there's very few films ever that will actually scare me today. But this would have probably scared me when I was a kid. You know, like terrified me, because it just is so like. I mean, you just feel the whole time like, oh my god, I think you told me, because I asked you if it was scary, and you said only for the characters.
Yeah, you're scared for the characters. Yeah. But I mean, I was 15 years old when this came out, and I saw it then, and I was like, oh, I was really blown away by it.
I was not alive when it came out. Nope. So,
but yeah, one of my absolute favorite movies, which is why it's on Film Freaks.
Yep.
There you go.
So we will be back, I guess, hopefully next month with a brand new episode. So thank you. We're continuing on with season 4. This is, I think, the 9th episode of season 4. Isn't that crazy?
There you go.
So we're gonna continue going, and we do horror, we do comedy, we do drama, we do action, whatever.
Whatever we love.
Whatever we love.
Yep.
These are the films that we love. So,
there you go. Thanks for joining us, and please join us next time.
Until next time.
Bye.
Bye.
without seeing it.
Oh, where's our film freaks? We need our film freaks sign.
Means you need to like put it on here, and
Oops.
you have to. I'll have to move over. Oh.
All right, that happened. This is we're recording.
We're recording.
Yeah, of course. I don't like it like that because I'm afraid it's gonna fall.
Yeah, but I can't read it, so there you go.
This is what happens. This is how we do it.
There you go. Okay. Yeah, I'm ready to go home.